We believe that principles can be a bit too binary. It can feel like a checklist that you have to do all these things, and if you do them, you're getting it right.
Joanna, talk a little bit about what are the fundamental principles? How do we approach the idea of regenerative design that's different, perhaps, from how we thought about sustainable design in the past or other approaches to design?
Thank you, Tim. And just to say, it's really exciting and inspiring to be here. At the RSA for the last 3 years, we've been leading research on what it means to actually design in a regenerative way. That research was led by my colleague, Josie Warden, but working very closely with people across the RSA community, including Kate Rayworth, Daniel Christian Vall, and others. And what we got to and what we published recently in May, the Design for Life mission, the new RSA mission, which focuses on our potential at the RSA to unlock social opportunity for social innovation that can help us transition towards a future that is more resilient, rebalanced, and regenerative. And in that mission, we capture some of the insights from our research around these sort of principles that you described, Tim. We refer to them as perspectives rather than principles, and there's a number of reasons for that. Firstly, because we believe that principles can be a bit too binary. It can feel like a checklist that you have to do all these things, and if you do them, you're getting it right. Whereas actually our understanding of regenerative design, as Kate Rayworth said earlier in the session, is very nascent. It's emergent, and we're continuously learning and developing ways of practicing in more regenerative ways. So perspectives leave more space for emergence and adaptability. So we can learn, and these can change over time. So we're not being sort of very explicit about these being the right ones. This is what we know for now, and these might change in the future. And the second reason is because perspectives recognize that we need different worldviews. We need to bring very different perspectives to the work that we have, and that fundamentally it's about the work that we do on the inside as individuals, as designers, engineers, change makers, before we start to act on the outside, the services that we're designing, the products, the systems, the policies. So the 6 perspectives that we suggest are firstly systemic, so understanding the system, recognizing that our systems are dependent and interconnected, and fundamentally that they're nested in the same way that our ecological systems are. And Kate Rayworth and the donut model represents that really well. So at the heart, we have our economic system, and our economic system should be delivering value to our social and environmental system. There's no other value that is meaningful. Wealth for the sake of wealth, wealth that is not about creating human health and planetary health, is not valuable. So making sure that our economy is working for society, and then making sure that social initiatives and social interventions are there to support environmental outcomes. Because here, as humans, as a society, we're here to care for the planet, for the wider ecologies. So that's the first principle. The second is adaptive. So learning from nature. There can never be a finite solution that is going to be the right idea or intervention for the long term. That we need to learn from nature and the adaptive cycle of nature. And for some of you who might be familiar with that sort of infinity model, that every intervention that we design goes through growth, through maturity, potentially collapse or death, but where it dies, it creates compost for the next idea to come. The third is around collective wisdom, and that's the wisdom of the diverse voices, and particularly those who are closest to the challenges or the kind of futures that we're seeking to create, but also looking at non-human wisdom, biomimicry, and what we can learn from nature. The fourth is imagination. We are the only the only animal on this planet with an innate capacity to imagine. And we can't solve today's problems with the same kind of thinking that created them, as Albert Einstein put it. So how are we tapping into our innate capacity to imagine, to create a radical future beyond the current paradigms? And going back to George the poet's provocation this morning. Fifth is long-term thinking, so moving away from the myopic views of our funding cycles, our policy cycles, profit and loss analysis, and really thinking about our stewardship for the long-term future. How are we acting today? What are we doing today that is leaving the planet in a better place for the generations to come, beyond our lifetime, beyond our jobs, our roles, how we exist within the organizations we're leading and working from. And finally, glocal, which is actually a term that Daniel Christian Wahl uses a lot, and it's the combination of global and local. And it's demystifying and fundamentally challenging this notion that there's a one-size-fits-all solution, that we just need to achieve sort of global scale of any sort of idea, that a good idea is scalable, and starting from place, from the context of that place, the strengths, the skills of the place, the soil, the climate of the place, and then working on interventions that work for that place and that come from the people and the resources of that place. And then learning can be spread, and that's how scale happens. So learning can be spread to other bioregions, other places, who may be inspired to try things in different ways. But yeah, change starts one place at a time, one bioregion at a time. So these are the kind of sort of perspectives we're now focusing on, because we believe that every person, every one of us is an agent of change. So if we all approach our future with these kind of perspectives front of mind, it can be absolutely transformational.